today. We have a lot to cover, so before we get started, I just wanted to make sure that we go over a couple of ground rules for the webinar. First thing, if you have any audio issues, you have two options with your GoToWebinar panel. You can either connect with your computer audio, or if you use the control panel, you can actually switch to a phone call, and that could fix any audio issues. The second one is, since this is a panel discussion, we also want to hear from you. You're part of our panel, so please use the questions field in the control panel and feel free to submit any questions, comments. We're going to have a question and answer session after this is all done. But if we aren't able to get to your specific question, we can always answer that at a later time. And finally, we do get a lot of questions of folks asking if they're going to get a video recording of this, and we certainly are going to send a video recording afterwards. So right off the bat, before we even get to our panel, I wanted to engage the folks here that are attending, and let's just kick things off with a poll. You can answer right on your screen, and it's relevant to the conversation today. So let's just go ahead and launch this first poll. So how are the folks here? How are you addressing your inventory purchases? Just choose one answer. I'm really curious to see how folks respond out there, because it could help steer some of the conversation today. And I'll give it about maybe another 30 seconds for folks to respond here. We've assembled a really good panel of industry experts on both sides of the discussion. So once we kick things off, I think this question will be one of the most relevant. We'll give it another 15 seconds. And then I'm going to turn it over to Marc Weiss, CEO of Management One. Let's give it just about 10 more seconds. I apologize to our panelists. I don't know if you're able to vote as well, but this one's just going to be for the attendees. We have a few hundred people in here, so I'm really curious to see what they say. All right, let's close the poll and see how we did here. Interesting. Looks like the vast majority, we have all purchases on hold now. I'm curious from our panel to see if that holds true for everybody else. So without further ado, I want to introduce Marc Weiss, President and CEO of Management One.
Okay, thank you very much, Nico, and I want to thank our esteemed panel, especially being able to put this together on short notice. Management One's core purpose is to provide financial security to our retailers through merchandise intelligence and education. And we're really focused on the educational part of what we do. We're in a real retail community that we support and believe in, and want to provide as much information and guidance as we can. Every situation is unique and different. I'd like to introduce our panel. Gary Wassner. Gary is the CEO of Hilldun Corporation. Gary, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Tiffany Bowe. Tiffany is from Kane. And Karen, welcome. She's the Vice President of Sales for Kane. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Erik Wilkinson. Erik is the Chief Sales Officer for Eton Shirts. And the good thing about having this presentation is I got the correct pronunciation of Eton Shirts. So thank you for joining us, Erik.
Pleasure to join. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, Chris Donohue. Chris is got a lot of experience in the luxury retail area, and he is the sales director, I think, for North America. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Marc. Great to be here.
Thank you. Next, we have we invited two of our clients to join us for their perspective. Maureen Doron is the owner of Skirt Boutique. I've known Maureen a long time. She's been in business for 20 years. She has 3 stores in Philadelphia, well, 2 stores in Philadelphia and a seasonal store in Stone Harbor. Welcome, Maureen.
Thanks so much, Marc.
And Andy Weil. Andy owns Pockets Men's Store in Dallas, Texas. He has 2 stores, and he also has another location as well that is a Peter Millar store. So welcome, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, we're going to, there's a new reality for retailers and vendors. Gary spoke eloquently about this in a webinar last Monday on Informa. Landlords, this is from Retail Dive. Landlords aren't the only ones who will be sharing the pain with retailers facing closures. Some retailers have indicated they plan to extend vendor payments to preserve liquidity. So I'd like to kick this off with Gary to articulate this and speak to the need and opportunities for vendors and retailers to work together, and that it is a two-way street.
Yep, certainly. I mean, I'm happy to. It's going to be a very difficult climb back out of this pit, and we all know that. The only way we're going to do it is cooperatively. Initially, what happened was when everything closed, retail panicked. They weren't alone, but most retailers panicked, and their first knee-jerk reaction was to cancel all orders and to stop paying bills. So we heard from the large and the small, from the TJ Maxx's and the Ross stores down to your favorite local specialty store, that bill paying was either being extended by 30, 60, or 90 days, in some cases 90 days from original terms, or being suspended altogether. And all future orders were now being canceled and were going to be revisited. Now this was panic, and clearly it was panic, and I understood it, and I was advising everybody, sit back, take a few moments, let's see what happens, don't react so quickly to this. Brands were panicking as well when they had merchandise ready to ship and it was canceled. They paid for it already. It built and it created this adversarial relationship between what were supposed to be partners. So when retailers were reaching out to brands and saying, as your partner, the brands were reaching out to me and saying, partner? This is not what a partner does. In turn, the brands were calling their factories and doing the same thing, canceling orders, not paying bills, etc. And it went down the entire food chain. The only way we're going to climb out of this is to work together. We know that Q2 2020 is lost. We're not going to recover it. There's an over-inventoried situation almost everywhere. The only way we're going to work our way out of this is to sell off all spring, summer before we actually begin to take in pre-fall and fall. The only way that's going to happen is if the retailers tacitly agree, let's not combine, let's not ruin 2 more seasons after the spring, summer that's already been devastated. And let's end the promotional environment after we clean out all of this excess inventory. If one retailer decides to bring in pre-fall and fall early and starts promoting it and discounting it, it'll force everybody else to do the same thing. And we'll be right back into this promotional environment where no one is going to make back any of the money that they've lost. So my suggestion really is that we all, as an industry, we decide that we're going to work together. We're going to share the losses for Q2, not try to put them off on one segment of one link of the chain or another, but share them. And we're all going to share them no matter what. So we might as well agree to share them and share them in a productive way as best we can. Finish this debacle of a quarter, and then begin fall a month or 2 months later than the original cadence of sales and shipping, and hold price, carry full price, because we're going to be introducing product later into the season, closer to when people actually want to wear it anyway. And there's no reason why we can't attempt to make back some of the losses that we're all incurring in Q2. So again, just to reiterate, it's cooperation. we've seen how one retailer can damage the entire market by going on sale or promoting product way too early in the season just to raise cash at the expense of the entire quarter for everybody else. So from the retail perspective, it's really a matter of cooperation, and it's going to hurt all the specialty stores if the majors are over inventoried and are selling things at significant discounts, and then move into fall and pre-fall with those same significant discounts. How are any small stores going to achieve a profit margin that's workable after something like this has occurred? So those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Gary. Well said, and I'm in alignment with your thinking. This community has got to work together to be successful. And as I said in the beginning, every retailer is in a different situation as far as their current cash, and they're going to have an opportunity from the government between the EIDL and the PPP to have money available. And this money has to be used thoughtfully and intelligently. And some vendors, and there's small vendors and large vendors. We have two fairly significant vendors here to talk about how they've been proactive from the beginning working with their retailers. One of the things that's important to mention is retailers have got to communicate. The same way we talked about negotiating with your landlords, you have to talk to your vendors too. You just can't hide from it. And you've got significant issues to deal with. And some vendors have been extremely proactive. We're going to start with Tiffany and then go to Erik and Chris. But Tiffany, if you can kick it off.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tiffany with Kane, and we took the approach when this all started to have each of our sales account executives call every store that we do business with and communicate with them that we are here to work with them. That we had a plan in place. Obviously, that plan has changed every day with this epidemic. We're all adapting, but we took a position to basically take our summer on order and not ship it. We had our 330 goods obviously in-house and ready to ship. We are holding that inventory. We are not asking anyone that they have to take it in, but we are working with them. Hopefully when their stores do open, later in the summer season, if they want the goods, they'll be there for them to take. We will work with them on dating. We will work with them on pricing and discounting it as best as we can. And like Gary shared, we believed, starting fall a little bit later probably would be good for everyone. We all know shipping sweaters in August don't typically turn. So forcing us to kind of be more on the cadence of when people really want to buy fall. And that's how we're kind of attacking fall, with placing it to ship a little bit later in the season than it normally would, and working forward from there. So we just took that position, and we hope that as a vendor, all of our retail partners, make it through this. I agree with Gary, Marc, I should say, the communication is so important. We connected with just about every one of our retailers. Obviously, there were a few that we couldn't get a hold of, and we're still trying to get a hold of, just to kind of give them the position that we're taking. Most have been very receptive and really happy that we had a plan. And we'll follow up with them and continue to communicate with them as this evolves. But our hope is that things open up, and if people want to take in 330 delivery, which for us really is a true spring summer coordinated collection, it's going to have to be very compelling for them to take it in, and it's going to have to be at a price, and then really move forward starting with fall, be it more not in the end of July shipment, but more August, mid-August, possibly even September, depending on when we can get our contractors back to work in Los Angeles, because we do so much domestic work. So that's it.
Thank you very much. We did get one question, and I think I did, we got a lot of questions in, but one in particular. And I think I touched on it, Gary, if you want to add to this, but the government money, the PPP, we had a webinar on this. You can go to our site and pick it up. But the PPP money is mostly for payroll, and for some other things. It's really the EIDL money that's going to be available to pay vendors. Would you agree with that, or am I?
Yeah, the PPP money is really important though, because it's one of the more effective methods I've seen for government to support industry. It allows you to maintain your full staff, to keep people employed rather than have them go on unemployment or disability or whatever the case might be. And when the market reopens, which it's inevitably going to do, you're ready, you're prepared. You haven't lost them, and they don't hate you, you know. So it's a really important aspect of this whole disaster recovery process. It is for companies with less than 500 employees. It can be used only for payroll, insurance, and rent, I believe, utilities, rent, etc. And you can't fire anybody during that period of time that this loan is in effect, and you can't reduce the salaries of anyone making over 100,000 within your company. If you follow the rules, it's forgivable, and not just forgivable, it will be forgiven. So it could help make up quite a bit of the loss that you're incurring in Q2. So I wouldn't pass it off as something inconsequential. It's not.
Myself on mute. The EIDL really would be the money for vendors, correct?
I believe so. I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest.
Okay. Erik and Chris, you want to talk about what Eton's doing to be proactive and working with their accounts?
Sure, Marc. Chris, do you mind if maybe I'll start with kind of an overarching?
Yeah.
You can take it.
Go ahead. Yep.
So we kind of took a three-prong approach. The first, which we communicated to all of our partners on March 16th, which was what we call kind of the business safety net, because at that time there was a lot of insecurity and lack of knowledge of how long this was going to last, what were going to be the full effects of it. So our first instinct was just what can we do to very much what Tiffany's company did. What can we do just to kind of support our partners? So we put all of our pre-fall on hold immediately. Some of it slipped out before we were able to put the stop on it. So we added dating to that. We added dating to all of the pre-fall when people are ready to ship it. We added a discount to our B2B, which is roughly 50% of our business. We have a huge replenishment business, so we added an upfront discount on anything that's ordered for that or for made to measure. We ended up canceling our holiday collection, which lived October, November, which freed up about 25% of last year's third and fourth quarter receipts, with the idea of pushing the pre-fall and the fall to ladder deliveries so that we're not creating a stockpile of inventory at the end of the year, and we kind of create a natural open to buy at the end of the year just by eliminating those receipts entirely. And then the second part of it was kind of the empowerment part, and that was after we also reacted in the same way that Tiffany's company did, in that we got our teams on the phone, had them call every single one of our customers worldwide, just openly talk about what's going on, what are you thinking, what are you hearing, what are your plans, get some ideas. And then we just executed this past Tuesday the empowering sales part. So we fortified the inventory on our B2B and made all of our inventory available worldwide on that platform. We created this wish list routine that activates our own website so that staff members or sales associates among our wholesale partners can communicate actually using the wish list function on our Eton's website and then order through the B2B. And for those stores who have no capability whatsoever, we just created an affiliate program where they get a code, they can just mail it out to all their customers can shop on our website, and we pay a commission on all those net sales directly to the stores. So it was kind of a two-prong approach, realizing that everybody's kind of in different boats in terms of what they're able to do in terms of staff, accessibility to their store, accessibility to being able to ship product. And then the next step is about creating end consumer demand, and that's what we're working on now. So our teams are back on the phones asking, kind of launching the second tier of the program to get feedback and get ideas so that we can now start coming up with ways of creating end consumer demand, which, I think goes a lot to what Gary was saying about how do we sell spring the second that we're capable of doing it to eliminate inventory and make room for the product we know we hopefully want to try to bring in that season appropriate later this year.
I actually want to ask a question because we're getting a lot of questions in, and one of them is, how do you get the biggest discounters of all the department stores to stop discounting when we get to fall? I mean, everyone's going to discount for spring and summer, but what do we do when we get to fall? I know Patagonia sent out a memo yesterday, and it's almost like they're trying to implement MAP pricing. But I just wondered if Tiffany and Erik and Chris, you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would like to say I've had several calls with the majors in regards to that and discussing margin expectations going into the latter half of the year, what that will mean. Obviously they are very promotional, but we tend to, as best as we can, work with them to hold markdowns. I think it's going to be critical that we work with them even more closely on that. And make sure that they're very much aware of our position, and that if they are promotional, that's not something we're going to support on the back end when it comes to markdown money and so forth. So hopefully we can push them a little bit to hold things longer by just sharing that we're not going to, fold into that. It'll be hard though, I think, for some of the bigger players that are just always promotional, how to get out of that. I've had some conversations with some of the biggest retailers saying that they are taking a position to be a lot leaner in stock, which was rather refreshing, and that they want to really right course themselves to turn quicker and to have greater profit upfront and regular price selling. So we will see if that really happens, but that's kind of where we're at right now on that.
It's Gary. I just wanted to add to what you just said. Vendors, the brands, need to have some control over their destiny, and I think they've realized through this disaster that they really had no control at all, not on their supply chain and not on their distribution.
Yeah. I think for us, what we've learned too, this has kind of put us in a position where we can right size ourselves as a company and decide who we want to go forward with. It's some difficult decisions to make, but I believe we're going to be coming out ahead in that sense, and kind of walking away from some accounts that we probably shouldn't have been selling just from a pure margin point of view.
Exactly. I've been saying that to my clients every day now, that you need to sell product that has the proper margin. And if it doesn't have the proper margin, drop it. If the stores are asking you for things that are going to destroy your season, choose not to sell to them. It's not about top line any longer. Now it's about making money. And I think this has forced everybody to realize that. It's not top line growth that matters in the end. It's feeling secure, it's feeling in control of your own destiny, and it's being able to make intelligent decisions based upon a good, sound business model.
Yeah. And not, to your point, not just doing business with people for the sheer volume, the unit growth, it's not what it's about. It's about being profitable at the end of the day. I'm fortunate to work for a privately owned company. We don't have shareholders. So for us to kind of right course this, we are going to make some decisions to eliminate people that we have sold for many years, but it will be better for us in the long run.
Yeah. Hey guys, this is Chris from Eton, just chiming in if I can for a sec. Just to back up what everybody's saying, I think so much of what's going to happen in the next, let's say month to 6 months is so much dependent upon, communication, just absolutely having these honest, open, dialogues with every customer, and B, just, managing one another's expectations of the future. And if that means, with a major department store, looking at your door matrix and saying, do I need to be in every single door? How profitable are we per door? Is it better to be in fewer doors with better presentations? And really talking about all the levers that we can pull together to end with the most profitable business, the least amount of markdowns, a less promotional cadence, and to, in some respects, level the playing field across the board for both specialty and department stores. Because, at Eton, we do business with a lot of big department stores, but we do business with a heck of a lot of specialty stores also. And, for years, we've been trying to figure out a strategy to level the playing field. And I think this tragedy that we're all living through presents that kind of opportunity where we can really start to rethink the business and have those conversations. And some of them are going to be painful and some of them are going to be unpleasant. But, I think it's a good moment in time to try and level the field and look at the expectations, look at the turn expectations. I think we're right. It's not all about top line volume. And also, I think it's a great opportunity for us as retailers and wholesalers and everybody in the industry to look at the seasonality of our product. I mean, so many of the markdowns, as we all know, are driven by wrong product at the wrong time. Like someone mentioned earlier, do we need to be delivering, heavy cashmere sweaters in July and marking down swimwear and polo shirts in May? So I think that also needs to be part of the dialogue as we move forward.
I had an account the other day, basically it was my 330 goods we're hoping will ship when everybody opens. And one of the major retailers, I will not say, actually said, we'll take it in June, but I need to cancel anything that's white. It'll be too late for white. Is that not hysterical? I mean, how you're supposed to, there's really no rules anymore about white, but they want to cancel white starting for June. It just,
it's insane.
That's their thought process.
I just had one of our major retailers, the president just contacted me to tell me that they're canceling all go forward orders for, and then he listed a number of very large brands that I factor. And I was shocked. I mean, what are they going to do for merchandise when July, August, September come around? I don't understand the logic in any of this. I really don't. We should all work together to find the right assortment of product to ship at the appropriate time for the consumer. Sell enough that we know is going to retail well, and not play these ridiculous games of margin agreements and markdowns and givebacks and swaps. We're just buying too much and producing too much. We have to right size all of this to make sense in the future economy.
Well said. And I think that it's a good time to segue into hearing what Andy and Maureen have to say, because I think that they struggle with having to respond to what the majors do. But they've been both Maureen and Andy have been proactive. And Maureen, you want to kick it off with how you've approached your vendors and what those conversations look like, and what you've agreed to, because I know you've had some very blunt and honest and fair conversations.
Sure. I just think, thank you everyone who's spoken so far. It's really resonated, and especially what you started off the conversation with, Gary, about just being true partners. And I must admit, I've thrown around the word partner a lot when this first hit. And I had to take a hard look at that and remember that we are all in this together. And I do have to partner with my vendors if I want them to partner with me, and take a hard look at what that means. I think I speak for independent retailers. Well, I don't know. I can only speak for myself. When I speak for myself when I say it's really hard for me right now to think about fall. I'm really just thinking about the next few weeks and months. And I think that, the wholesalers out there are really trying to figure out how we're going to figure that all out. And it's music to my ears that we're going to bring in product closer to, buy now, wear now, and not mark things down. Yes, let's do all of that. But what's really consuming all day, every day of my time is the staggering amount of inventory I currently own and have no way to sell because I'm not online, And the amount of inventory I committed to purchasing that I don't want to completely leave my vendors high and dry with if I'm going to be a true partner to them. And that is consuming all of my energy right now. So what's working for me, and it's literally like chipping away an ice cube off of an iceberg, is talking to my vendors, like everyone's saying, communicating with them constantly, and doing a combination of asking for discounts on current invoices that I currently owe, especially when that vendor has direct to consumer websites that they're discounting and I still own that product and can't sell it. Asking to swap inventory that I currently own that's getting stale by the minute for future product that I can get in when we do reopen. Being pretty blunt and saying, yes, when I reopen, and I don't know when that will be, of course I'm going to take in some of the goods that I committed to. I would, of course, I'm not just going to cancel everything I wrote from you here until fall. But when I do take in goods, you're going to have to give me a discount so that we can share the burden of these margins. And I'm going to take in some portion of my orders if you can give me a discount and if you can help me reassort these orders. So we need to work together to swap goods, to discount goods, dating, all of those things. And the more combination of those things, the better. And the majority of my vendors have done some combination of those things with me. I would say 80% have done swaps, discounting of current invoices and discounting of future invoices. Some have done nothing except agree to push out my invoices, later and, cancel pre-fall. And that's frustrating, but the ones that are working with me now are the ones I'm going to go to first when we do open our stores and start to bring in new goods. They're the ones I'm going to go to first. And like you guys are all saying, it is going to be about making money and not choosing the brands that I love the most or I think are the most beautiful. It's going to be about the ones I can get the best margins on now. And that's, a wake-up call for me to really dig deep and look at my best performing vendors and the numbers don't lie and, not be distracted. Today I'm in Pennsylvania and today they announced that their, schools are closed for the rest of the year. And while we kind of knew deep down that was coming, that was hard to hear because even if we do open for business, it's not going to feel the same, for a long time. And I don't know what that means for my business. So, I don't know.
Yeah, you're so right. Everything you said applies, both directions. The brands need to, and they do recognize that they need to offer discounts. They need to just get the season liquidated. It's not about making money this season. Nobody is going to on any industry at the moment. I completely agree. The one area that I would say is not going to be terribly productive is swapping, because giving merchandise back to the vendors when they're already piled up with all the cancellations of goods, they can't do anything any more than you can. The best bet would be to get a discount on it and just sell it at cost, as opposed to just shifting it around where it's going to be useless by the time it gets there. I think it's less palatable for a brand to think about taking merchandise back at this time than to leaving it where it is with a discount that works for everybody.
All right, that's good advice, Gary, because my thought process in that, and I would love your opinion, is, and I hope this is helpful to other people listening, is I'm trying, to get creative in selling the goods that I own to my customers, and they're loyal, and we're doing approval boxes, and we're doing a decent amount of business this way. I mean, nothing, near where what we would be doing normally, but so we're sending out boxes grassroots to our clients. And there is going to become a point where they want to see new product. And it's like sickening to me to allow any new goods in my door when I have a staggering amount of old goods in my door. But at some point, I am going to need fresh product. And so it felt better to me to be like, okay, take back this really old product for some, so at least I can offer the little bit of business I'm doing, I can offer them something new to look at. But you're saying it's just harder for the vendors to do that than to just give me a straight discount.
I think that's what Gary was saying. Plus there's shipping costs and everything else involved with it. Just find a way to liquidate it and work with your vendors to discount it. Andy, you've been sitting on the sidelines here. We haven't forgotten about you, but I know you've been banging the phones and working hard. You want to share some of your experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like Gary had mentioned, initially there was a knee-jerk reaction to freeze everything, stop this, and then to go out and say, hey, these open invoices I have, I need all this discount. I'm out of business. I'm closed. I don't know when I'm going to reopen. But then, again, then kind of stepped back, and it is a multi-pronged process, and it's a multi-pronged problem. And so I began, because also I got from my side, I got very little reaction or very little help from the vendors, just asking for help for the immediate needs. And so a little bit more have gone to talking to them about having frank and honest discussions about my open invoices, talking to them about what the deliveries that I got in the we shut down in the mid-March, what we got in March, talking to them about the deliveries in the next 60 days, and then talking to them about fall deliveries, and trying to find a solution really that encompasses all of that, whether it's a little bit of this, they've been more responsive about giving some discount for my open invoices, talking to them about figuring ways to either consign goods or pack and hold goods on things that have not been delivered. And then looking at how we can shift future deliveries for us, the things that are not seasonal or things that can move into the next season, shifting those a little bit so that it's helping the vendors in the fact that they've got commitments to these goods. They're not gonna have to eat those goods. We can take some of them at some time and figure out what we do with the goods that are seasonal that I just won't be able to take. Also, as far as that, the discounts, I've tried to, getting a little bit of the discounts on my goods that I have in the store and those open invoices, but also looking for protection. Hey, if the majors in my town, I've got a lot of them, or the manufacturer stores, if they start discounting on the goods that I have, I'm going to be coming back to you to get further help. It's not a hey, this is the discount and goodbye. And they've been, I think, somewhat responsive to that, to say, hey, we understand. You want people to hold price, and you want to have a chance to sell goods. A lot of these goods are going to be new to the consumer. And so, really, I've tried to take it, maybe a 9-month approach of finding a total package of an agreeable partnership with the vendor that works, that helps both sides, hedges them a little bit on lost business, and helps us with what we know will be some lost margin, where missed opportunities that you just can't make up, and also find a solution for that excess of goods that we're going to have. And I also will obviously prioritize who those initial vendors that I'm reaching out to, and deciding that, hey, those are really important vendors, both for us to them and them to us, and chipping away at those as much as I can. But it takes a lot of, like what you guys said. I mean, just maintaining communication. It's still a very fluid situation. I don't know when Dallas, initially they said May 20th. Now they're pushing it to maybe April 30th, but it may get pushed back out. We don't know when we'll actually be back open for business. And so I try to communicate that to the vendors, and they understand. And so we, keeping those lines of dialogue open, I've gotten a more receptive response to several of them that they want to do that. And that, to me, those are the guys that I have a chance to build strong relationships and grow business in the future. And we talk, Maureen, you were talking about margin. I think if they're good vendors and it's good product, the margin is going to be there. You've got to love the product to sell it. And so it's been a strategic, and I may come out of this with a lot fewer vendors than I had 60 days ago, but that's going to be healthy for me also. I'll come out a stronger, better retailer for it, I think.
Yeah, I lost the call a minute ago, so I don't know what what was heard of what I was saying before. Did everybody hear my discussion about terms and extension of terms?
No.
Okay, the call dropped and I kept talking. Another suggestion for retailers, as a factor, we are considering all reasonable requests for extension of terms on invoices that are for merchandise already shipped. And that gives breathing room to the retailers until things reopen. I mean, we understand cash flow is everything for everybody on all sides of the equation. So that's something to consider as well. And it's a matter of collaboration and communication. So we need to cooperate on all of these things, the factoring community, the brands, the retailers, the manufacturers, the factories, et cetera. It's going to take all of us working together in order to build back an industry that's really been torn apart.
So,
I just want to speak to the dating that, a lot of my vendors are entering, this is Maureen speaking, offering dating. And I don't mean this to sound negative. I really do appreciate the partnership. But in women's retail, in the contemporary world, goods that I received the first few days of March, and then I closed my stores March 11th. If I reopen my stores June 1st, those are brown, rotten bananas. Paying off of those goods at full price in 120 days instead of 30 days doesn't feel
I wasn't even referring to that. I was suggesting a discount coupled with terms.
Yeah, I thank you, Gary. I don't mean to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm very grateful.
You're absolutely correct. As I said, this is going to be a collaborative recovery.
Yeah.
And you can't force people to do things they're unable to do.
Yeah.
It has to be agreed upon. It has to be reasonable. And those who are not willing to cooperate, as you have said as retailers, and as I have said to the brands, don't do business with them.
Yeah.
Don't do business going forward. There's so much product out there. Make your choices intelligently for the sake of your own business, and for the sake of the future. We have to think about the future.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I can just say, guys, it's Chris here from Eton again. And, like everybody else, we've had, dozens and dozens and dozens of phone calls with all of our great, specialty stores out there. And the vast majority of them, to be honest with you, because we have such strong relationships, have been a collaborative approach. We know we're both going to lose some money. We both know we're going to take some black eyes, but we're not going to get knocked out if we work together. And, reason is really the key word here, because everyone knows that both sides are going to have to come to some kind of compromise. And when we have those conversations, they tend to end fairly well. Neither side gets everything they want, but both sides agree that they're in this together. And the only thing I caution with the conversations tend to go sideways, and thank goodness we haven't had a whole lot of them, but I've kind of sniffed out a few of them in the last couple of weeks, is when we're offering some what we think are proactive solutions, and then we're speaking with a vendor partner, and they just start telling us all about every other brand and what they're doing for them. Well, so-and-so is doing this, and this guy is doing that, and he offered me this, and you're not competitive, and blah, blah, blah. And that's where the conversations really go sideways. because a lot of it's just conjecture and it's hard to follow and it's impossible to, everyone's in different positions. So I would just kind of, caution the group and anybody on the call. Let's avoid that stuff and let's start talking about being proactive together and find solutions where we both survive.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. That's great advice.
We're going to go for the next poll question, and while we're doing it, there was a question specifically for Eton from one of the retailers asking, will retailers have more freedom in accepting goods when they need them in the next period or the next couple of periods, and so much as to when you're ready to ship them and want them to take it, or how do you want to approach that? That would be to Chris and to Erik.
Yeah,
I guess it kind of solves it though.
Sorry, I was on. Can you guys hear me? Is there? Yeah, we are absolutely. I mean, we've hopefully communicated to everybody through our emails and now through the phone calls that we're holding pre-fall, which is kind of a see now buy now pre-fall collection for us, but we're holding it as long as we need to until our partners are ready to start taking it in. We're prepared to push out regular fall as late as we possibly need to. We canceled the holiday collection to create open to buy so people don't have that sense of urgency that they've got so much inventory in the latter part of the year. And now we're looking at next spring, which that sell-in process will start this May, and how we should. Usually that can start shipping early in December, and we'll probably push that out into next year. Again, just to take pressure off of this year. And we've got a balance within our own supply chain and our own network and capital position in terms of, do we produce stuff so it's ready for those who want to take it early, or do we just collectively decide we're going to push everything out and we won't be able to be there for those who want to take in things earlier? And many of us have global businesses, so things are very different all over the world too. So there's that to take into account. But for the North American partners, we're definitely prepared to push back pre-fall and fall according to what their new flow needs to be, so that they feel secure and in a good place going into the second half of the year.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Marc, this is Andy from Pockets. I've actually had 3 calls today with top 10 vendors of mine, and they've all had that same kind of cooperation, that they are more than willing to let us control the release of goods for quite some time. I mean, we didn't get into specifics on how long it would be, but they understand the situation, and they are sympathetic to it, and want, they're just asking for the reciprocation for us to be understanding of their situation, of the vendor side too. And I think that that's a healthy dialogue that will help both sides come out of it at some point.
Yeah, Tiffany, did you want to weigh in on that as well?
It's in regards to what we are doing, much as the Eton team shared, we're pushing out our winter delivery. Usually we ship 3 months. We're probably only going to develop maybe 1 or 2. And I agree with the fact that we have to be flexible on when we can ship goods and when people can take them in. And we're going to do that as we get through this together.
Great. Okay, Nico, you want to go over your poll question, and then we're gonna go directly to some more questions. If everyone can hang on for another 10 minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, I think it's a good segue. A lot of these discussions are going to be happening at many of the trade shows. So we were just curious to see how many people plan on attending fall trade shows once the shutdown ends. Where are these conversations going to happen? We have about 40% of the attendees right now have already voted. So if you have another 10 seconds or so, we'll let you get a vote in and then we'll close it out.
We've got a lot of great questions that we've gotten in, and we're going to do our best to go to the panel and ask them. Some of these we've been able to combine. Do we have the poll ready?
We do. Let's share those out.
It might be interesting to ask as long as we're talking about trade shows, to get our vendors to talk about their thoughts on fall trade shows and their participation. Or if you don't want to, if you haven't made a decision yet, that's fine too. But I want to put you on the spot, but where your company's thinking is right now.
I would say for us, we're kind of at a holding pattern. We've already gotten, the emails from the Vegas trade shows. They are extending us some time to commit until June, which we are appreciative of. Normally, we would have to commit in the next couple of weeks. And then there's the September New York shows, which, obviously we're going to have to make a decision on. It is a budgeting issue when you think of the cost and the expense to do a show like that. And if the traffic's not there, is it worth it to do that? So those are things we're pondering right now and trying to think through as best as we can. We really would like to kind of gauge some kind of temperature on when the specialty store retailers will come, but we also understand their position. It's a very uncertain time, and they're also in the same position we are. We're watching budgets as critical.
Okay, and Gary and Eric, Chris and Erik, your thoughts?
On the trade shows, and it's not just the trade shows, it's all of Fashion Week, trade shows, the whole process of selling that's been disrupted. Will there be a Fashion Week in September? I mean, who knows? Are people going to want to gather globally? Are people going to want to go to Magic in August and be in huge groups within convention centers? I'm not certain. I think digital platforms are going to be significant, at least until we all feel comfortable again in crowds. Although I don't love that idea, and I really think the direct communication is a big part of the product and the touching and feeling, we're going to have to adapt. So I'm not sure how we should structure trade shows in this coming, as soon as we come out of this. I think it's going to require a lot of thinking and a lot of discussion with retailers, whether they're going to attend or not. It's not an easy decision, and it's not a quick decision.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got a question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're kind of taking the approach that all of our planning is such that it'll be a remote process. One, we don't want to put pressure on any retailers to feel that they have to go to New York or go to a showroom or to a trade show to buy the product. And then, frankly, from a cost-saving standpoint for ourselves in terms of travel and setup. And the other, big fear I think for the whole vendor community right now is even getting samples. We're coming out of the production lull time period, February and March, which is usually the lowest production times in factories in Europe. And now they're coming back, and this is usually when you're producing samples for those collections. And is that a priority for them over continuing this fall? So that's ready. So I think no matter what, I think everybody's going to be facing an abbreviated ability to show the collection based on what's happening with everyone's supply chains right now too.
Very good. There's a technical question that came up that maybe you can answer, Gary. People feel a legal responsibility to honor the orders they made, and if they find difficulty in negotiating with the vendors, are they really legally held to accepting the orders even though they've been closed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Purchase orders are contracts and they are legally binding, but unfortunately and fortunately, depending upon which side you're looking at it from, there are generally force majeure clauses in purchase orders for apparel. From all the majors there are, which allows them to cancel orders legally. And it would be a hard-fought battle against an act of God or force majeure clause in a contract, and that's why they're there. So the answer is yes and no. You have to check your purchase order and see if it has a clause in it. If it doesn't, then it's a contract and it's legally binding.
Thank you. We got a question from, did somebody else want to add to that? Either Tiffany or Erik or Chris? Okay. I think you all have shown that you're willing to negotiate and work things out with your retail partners. We've gotten a lot of comments that I won't share, but we've also gotten a lot of great questions. And one of them is, are you going to be looking at bringing your price points down in the future? Because a lot of the consumers are not going to be in the same position they were in going into this. We don't know how the economy is going to rebound, if it's going to be a U or a V or a much slower return. Just wanted to know if there's been some thought about, you know, the strategy of price points going forward in your lines.
And speaking to Karen Kane, I can't say that we would waver on that in terms of the integrity and the quality of what we make would not change. Is it part of our thought process in developing future products to be conscious of price point? Yes, but we wouldn't really compromise the quality of what we do or the fact that we, you know, manufacture a lot of it here in the US. So I would say for us, I don't see us adjusting to lowering our prices. It might be that we shift our gears to be a little bit more gift thinking and thoughtful in fourth quarter design, that it be you know, something that she feels comfortable purchasing and not overpricing things, but we would stay on the same course that we always have.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we're about out of time. I do appreciate the panel taking time out on a last minute notice. You're a great panel. We've got one wrap-up screen to share with you. If you have questions, you can send them into info@management-one.com, and we'll do our best to get you some answers. We are going to have a town hall meeting next week, and certainly this can be a part of that. But Nico, I'll turn it over to you to close this up. And I really do want to thank people who participated and the questions that were asked and the thoughtfulness and the work you put in and the energy into this. And we wish everybody a safe and healthy period. And remember that this is a communication. It's a two-way street. Be proactive and be civilized. I think that there's a certain amount of anger out there that people feel. It'd be better to kind of start with a clean slate and recognize that we're a global community that is facing this together, and maybe throw away some of the feelings that you've had in the past, and really look towards consensus and building a relationship with your vendor partners and your retail partners in the future. Again, I want to thank everybody. We hope to see you at future webinars. We're already working on a recovery plan for our retailers, and we'll be in touch with you. And I have one last thought, and that came up in this. You cannot communicate enough from both the vendor and the retailer's position. A lot of retailers have time now to spend communicating with their vendors. Vendors, you have time. I'm really proud of what I've heard in terms of reaching out to all your clients, but I think that over communication helps dispel a lot of angst and people negotiating against themselves. So again, thank you all very much, and we appreciate you all being here. Have a great rest of the week and weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marc.
Thank you.